Philip Rivers, 44 years old. I
Man.
hear everything today, Kurt, is he knows the system inside and out. He's
Yeah.
been talking to Shane Steichen. He still hasn't played football in 5 years.
Yeah.
When you first heard this news, what was the first thing that went across your mind?
I mean, obviously, it's crazy. Just from the standpoint of you think about age and you think about the time out of the game.
Hmm.
I think the thing I worry about the least is throwing the football. Because that's a trait. I do a lot of training now, and I hardly ever throw throughout the year, and I go and train a lot of guys. And when I do that, like I out throw all of them. Just because of the technique, and when you know how to do it, it's
Hmm.
it's like riding a bike. Like it comes back to you, and that technique can guide you in so many ways. Even though your arm may be a little bit weaker, you may not be able to throw it
Yeah.
as far. You could still make the majority of the throws with no problem that you need to make. So that's the least of it. Um,
Okay.
uh, the other parts are just the physical movement part of it. When you haven't been doing something that is reactionary and has all this speed and these athletes around you, I'm curious how quickly that can come back. And then, of
Hmm.
course, there's little nuances to defenses and stuff that are different, and to be able to get up
Yeah.
to speed mentally to see it. I've always been one of those guys that says I respect the game too much to think that I could sit out for 5 years and then just come back and pick up where I left off.
Hmm.
But I've heard Philip. He's obviously coaching, so he's around football. How much he's throwing it, I don't know. I know he's trained some guys in the off season, so who knows what that's really like? Because I don't think any of us really know. We could sit
No.
back. I remember I had retired for a couple years, and the Cardinals were going through a bunch of quarterback issues, and I went out back and started dropping and throwing a little bit, and I was kind of going, hey, if they call me, I'll entertain it. They never called, so I never had to see whether I could do it or not. But
Yeah.
those are the things that I think about when I hear this. Like, okay, not worried about him throwing the football as much as I'm worried about the other aspects. And again, like I don't know how quickly he's going to get thrown in there, and if he gets
Hmm.
thrown in there quickly, like just being able to play and protect yourself and have a semblance of success, because and again, I'm sure Philip doesn't really care, how it
Yeah.
plays out, big picture wise. But I mean, but we're all competitors, and we want to go out there and put ourselves in a position where we can do well and we can really help our team. And so, yeah, there's a lot of questions for me, just like everybody else, and
Yeah.
I will be fascinated if this thing plays out and he gets on the field.
Yeah. It's been an unbelievable turn of events that has happened
Yeah,
in
it
Indianapolis to
has.
why we're
Yeah, it's
here.
unfortunate.
Um, it really is. What was the one thing that when you're in the backyard going, what's the one thing I'm most concerned about if I was going to get
Yeah.
that call? Was there, what was the one thing if you walked into that facility that I need to check this box
Yeah, I
initially?
mean, I would say there's a couple things. The first thing, and I even thought about this when I was playing, like every offseason when I would go and train and then go back to training camp, I would always wonder in my mind, okay, will my reactions and kind of feel inside the pocket be what it was last year? And this is while I was
Great
still
point.
in the game, because you always wonder, we always talk about quarterbacks having kind of that sixth sense, kind of feel
Yep.
movement, feel pressure coming, and slide and move. That was one of the first things. Like if I wasn't around people and doing things that
Yep.
involved other people and movement and being able to see that, would I be able to do that part of it? And then the second part
Hmm.
was just the mental aspect of things. Like I was such a good processor when I played,
Yeah.
and then you're not doing that. Like there's nothing you're really doing in life that continues to force you to
Fire
have to
that stuff.
process
Yeah.
information, see bodies, react to it, and put it all together. And so that was kind of the biggest thing for me. Is I even wasn't as
Okay.
worried physically as I was mentally. Like I don't want to go back and then everything's slow and everything looks like a blur, and I'm just out there trying to survive instead of being able to put my best foot forward for myself and for the team.
Yeah.